There might have been a sale on Filament from Bamboo Labs. Just saying.
Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Monday Morning Coffee with me, Stephen, and it's episode number 459, and it's June the 22nd, 2026, and so we are now officially into summer. Last night was the summer solstice. Walter and I actually stayed up and saw it get dark, and it didn't get dark until almost 10 o'clock, 9:45, something like that. Of course, now I'm paying the price because, by the time I got to bed, did some reading, yeah, I want to sleep in this morning. However, today's cleaning day. Yes, today I must clean my house from top to bottom, and I hate doing it. But I hate a mess more. So, yeah. And I don't know about you, but I always get this, I know when it's time to do it. I do it once a month, a thorough cleaning once a month. I mean, I clean as I go all the time, but I like to do a thorough cleaning once a month, and it takes several hours to do all of this. Thank goodness Walter does the bathrooms. I don't do bathrooms, yeah, but he kind of likes doing bathrooms. I don't know why. It's always been that way, but that's just fine. I do all the rest. And I'm very methodical about it. I have a little cleaning chart. Yeah, I know, a little anally retentive, right? Just to make sure I don't miss anything that I need to do. And I'm getting myself psyched up for it. So after I do this, I'm postponing my walk this morning. I figure I get enough exercise when I'm cleaning the house. And away I will go. And when it's all done, I will be very happy because I don't have to do it again for another month. So, excuse me, little frog in my throat. Let's take a look at what I've been working on. We've heard me talk about it many times and my trials and tribulations with this, and that's my Japan quilt. Well, you can see here some of the blocks. There are many more blocks to go, but you can probably get the idea of what I'm trying to do here. A basic star block, and in each block I'm putting in something. And yeah, that's the way it's going to go. Now, tomorrow on Idiot Quilter, I will talk about my trials and tribulations with coming up with this, which is basically a simple design. And that was one of my problems. I was thinking too complex, I think. And I'll talk about some of the interesting trials and tribulations I've been having with the embroidery files that I'm using as well. So stay tuned for that tomorrow on the Idiot Quilter. And basically, that's all I have been working on in the last week. And of course, I've got to get started on cutting the pieces for next month's Art East segment of Second Star to the Right, the Peter Pan quilt. And I'll be honest, I don't enjoy that part of it at all. And it's like it's a black cloud hanging over my head that I have to get on with this. So I'm hoping maybe sometime this week I'll set a little time aside to at least cut a few of the pieces out. That's really the only way you can do it. Do it in segments. Because otherwise, cut. Crazy. And those of you that are doing any of the Art East kits or projects or patterns know exactly what I'm talking about when I go cut. Okay. So let's go to comments from last week, a couple that stood out. One, this came from Jen, and she says, are you able to get clear filament? Cookbook holders are great for holding patterns, regular books as well as cookbooks. So I'm not sure what the link actually is between the cookbook holders and the clear filament. What I'm assuming is she's thinking of those kind of cookbook holders that you slide your book down in between layers of acrylic so you can see the pages, but if you splash anything, it's not going to get on the cookbook, and it also keeps your cookbook open. At least that's what I think she means. And yes, you can get clear filament. I have used it in the past. It isn't clear like glass, though. It depending on what brand you get, and it's kind of a hit and miss. I have found getting one that is really, really clear. You can get ones that are somewhat opaque, The degree of opaqueness is, really, it's hard to tell when you're buying this stuff, unless you can actually see it when you're buying it. And even then, because of the way it's put on the roll, you can be looking at it and it's going to look milky. Uh, so yes, you can get clear filament, but it's not going to be clear like acrylic or glass. So I hope that answers your question. And Rachel says, I'm just watching news on TV. UK are banning social media for under 16 from 2027. Yep. I think many of the countries in the world are, if not outright banning the social media for children, are at least talking about putting restrictions on it. I'm glad to see that the UK is on the bandwagon for this. 2027, well, 6 months' time, I guess. I don't know why we need to give anybody any time for this. I guess it's for the big companies, like Facebook and all that kind of thing, and Twitter and, Instagram or whatever. We have it now. It's been passed in place in Canada. I'm not sure when it rolls out. It's gone through Parliament and has been passed. I suspect it may not go out until next year as well. That's what it seems. He's always give a timeline. And okay, on the one hand, maybe they're being fair to these companies so they can get their act together in time. But the more time you give them, the more chance they have of finding ways around the legislation, So I don't know. But generally speaking, I think it is a good idea. Some people consider this a form of censorship, and that is what it is. It is censorship. But there can be something like good censorship. And in the case of kids, 16 and under, they need some guidance on how to use social media properly. So, yeah, I think that's a good thing in the UK. It's a good thing here in Canada. I think Australia is doing it as well. Not sure about any other countries at the moment, but I'm sure there'll be some other European countries that will do this if they haven't already. The United States, I doubt it. I doubt it. The big businesses that run the social media have a very powerful foothold on the American government. So who knows? And of course, the great orange pumpkin there, he probably wouldn't go for that. He loves social media. Okay, so what's been happening in the headlines, Canadian headlines? Not a whole lot, really. One of the key national headlines is Frank Stronach is convicted. He is the CEO of Magna International, or he's founder of it actually, and he's been found guilty of 1 count of sexual assault and 1 count of indecent assault related to 2 women. He awaits another trial involving 6 other complainants. Well, he's 92 years old. And yes, whatever he did was wrong. But he did a lot of these things, not just yesterday, last week, or last year, like 40 years ago. He was a much younger man then. Still wrong that he did it. But I often wonder why these cases come out of the woodwork 40 years later. Yes, as we mentioned yesterday in Stephen Walter Live, one of the things with women in law enforcement, when there's been an assault on them, the police do not take it as seriously as they should, especially when it's a woman involved. It's a he said, she said kind of a thing. And unfortunately, many times in our courts, they take the man's side. And that's not right. However, when you bring this up now 40 years later, what stopped you for 40 years? And never get a clear answer to that. Sometimes, and does not help with the woman's case, I just remembered it. Something triggered it. Really? Okay. So what I'm saying is, after 40 years, yes, the man if he did this, he needs to be punished under the law for it. It should not be passed under the table, swept under the table. However, 40 years. Think about it. How good are people's memories about what actually took place? you can't help but think there's maybe somebody behind the scenes manipulating the people who have brought the charges. Just saying. Okay. We have a population drop, according to Statistics Canada. It's reported that Canada's population experienced a decrease of roughly 55,000 people in the first quarter of the year, primarily due to an outflow of temporary residents. Permanent immigration also slowed by 20.2% compared to the same period in 2025. Okay, well, the world is overpopulated, and Canada is not the only country. Excuse me for a minute. Little runny nose. I get this first thing in the morning. As I'm saying, there are several other countries that have dropped. Japan is one of them. And in fact, their government is doing things to encourage couples to have children. It wasn't that long ago where they were making all these predictions that world population was going to hit a record high, and this was going to put great strain on our natural resources, well, on everything. And there were countries like China and that were limiting how many children a family could have, a couple could have, because of overpopulation. Now they're saying we're dropping. Make up your minds. Personally, I don't think a drop in population is a bad thing for several reasons. Now, I have nothing to back this up, but in my own opinion, first of all, I still think we have too many people in the world, and it is still too much of a strain, especially given, climate warming and all that kind of stuff on our resources. And we have lots of evidence for that. The other thing is to bringing a child into this world at this point in time. I think it borderlines almost on irresponsibility. The world is not a nice place right now. Why subject a child to this? Now, I could go on and on about the whole thing about having children and who should have them, who shouldn't have them, and all that. And I would come under major criticism because I do not have any children of my own. And so how would I know these things? Well, I use it from experiential adventures I've had in teaching. And yeah, but as I said, that's a topic for another day. Okay, so now other things in the news. National Indigenous Peoples Day. Canadians mark the 30th anniversary of National Indigenous Peoples Day on June the 21st, with celebrations, ceremonies, and cultural events taking place from coast to coast. Did we? Surprise! That was yesterday. Yesterday was Father's Day. Yesterday was the first day of summer. Yesterday was the summer solstice. I didn't hear a word about National Indigenous Peoples Day. I was not aware of any celebrations in my area for it. So this is kind of weird. I have nothing against them having a National Indigenous Day. Sounds like fun. But how's the word getting out there if the first time I've heard about this was in the news, in the headlines? And not only that, but it's been going on for 30 years? I didn't know that. I mean, yeah. Am I just ignorant? I just didn't bother to pay attention to Indigenous news. Well, partly, I suppose. But yeah, this is the first I've heard of it. That's sad. Something should be done about that because the Indigenous people are very important to us here in Canada. We have treaties with them. We try to, well, we're still asking for forgiveness for residential schools and all kinds of other things. I don't know if we'll ever stop asking for that. But, I think National Indigenous Day should be really widely publicized, built up to it, kind of a thing. And whose responsibility is that? Well, I would say it's probably the various tribes in Canada. I mean, it's their day, right? So get out there and make me aware of it. Okay, whatever. um, Other things, Parliament and legislation. The House of Commons passed major legislation to fast-track large projects, setting up Carney for summer consultations with Indigenous leaders. Additionally, Ottawa imposed a 10% surtax on certain imported canned vegetables. First I've heard of that. On canned vegetables. Certain ones, I don't know. I'd have to do more research to see which ones. But obviously, these are canned vegetables that are coming in from another country or countries. And I guess they feel that this is going to be affect our farmers, our food producers, and stuff like that. It's only 10%. But I'd be curious to know if that 10% surtax or 10% tariff has been put on. Well, they're not calling it a tariff. They call it a surtax. That needs more study to know what they mean by that, because I don't think when we go to the grocery store and if we buy canned vegetables, I don't believe we pay tax on that because it's a food product and most foods are tax free. So this means the next time you buy a can of corn, you're going to pay 10% on top of whatever the price is. I don't know. There's a little bit more to this than this headline really gives. Mind you, we don't eat canned vegetables, so not that worried about it. Canadian political watchers kept a close eye on the G7 summit in France as Prime Minister Mark Carney and international leaders reacted to a fragile tentative U.S.-Iran peace framework. Well, I haven't turned on the news yet this morning. I think I saw something last night where, Israel's still bombing them over there. They didn't get the memo from Trump. And Trump obviously cannot control the Israelis, who basically, this whole war over there is their fault. They started it, yeah. And they sucked in Trump to get involved in it. So who knows? The G7 summit, these biggies get together. They sit at a big round table. They have lovely floral table settings. They eat well there. It's all nicey, picture opportunities and that. Does anything of any value come out of these meetings with all these big wigs? I don't know. And everything's always kept very quiet about what's going on, the backroom deals and stuff like that. They need to be more transparent, but that's the nature of politics, I guess. Okay, and some local news. Oh, yes, of course, we cannot avoid something about FIFA, unfortunately. Be glad when this is over with. Excitement and strict FIFA regulations navigated by the businesses continue to dominate Toronto news, with large crowds gathering in the city to watch matches involving teams like Germany and the Ivory Coast. Yay. Can tell I'm just overly enthused with FIFA. Not. I'm waiting, and it'll take a year, but sometime next year, Toronto will publicly put out its report on how much money they didn't make from FIFA, because they won't. I looked at the statistics for all of the World Cup games ever since they started them. No city that's hosted FIFA has ever made any money. They've always gone in the hole. Of course, when they go into the hole, the government here in Canada anyways bails them out, but that's our money, taxpayers' money. And FIFA is a private corporation. So, right. It'll be interesting, but they'll spin it in such a way. Oh, well, we lost like 2-point-something billion on this. But we really increased our presence in the tourist world or in the news as a Toronto or Vancouver is a place to go. So future revenue from tourism because of FIFA. That's how they'll spin it. Mark my words. It'll take about a year, maybe less before that, but probably a year. If we hear anything at all. These kind of things they like to sweep under the table as well. There was my town that I live in was in the news this week. for something very sad. This says an investigation remains active after a young boy was seriously injured after being struck by a tree branch in Oshawa. Yeah, I saw it on the news too, on television. And basically, it was a tree up on private property, but it was hanging over part of the school property or something. And we've had a lot of wind one day, a couple of days this week. And I guess the kid was in the wrong place, wrong time, and a real heavy branch came down, and yeah, and he was airlifted to a trauma center. So, that was serious. Um, I think the city needs to take a little bit more of an active part in when it's public spaces. I mean, even though the tree is on somebody else's property, I think the city should pay for people to come in, city workers to come in and trim any branches that are overhanging onto a public space, especially a public space where people or kids are going to be, under it, kind of a thing. But cities don't want to do that. They'll send you a notice because it's on your property and tell you that you got to trim it. And that costs a lot of money deciding on the size of the tree. We have a bunch of trees in our backyard that are not ours. They belong to the camp that's there's called Camp Samac. It's a Boy Scout reserve. Now, recently, they've been in there with their equipment and their machines, and they've been cleaning out the dead wood that's there. And they have taken down some trees that, basically are going to fall over in a strong windstorm. Now, none of that stuff they cleaned out was a threat to us. However, our next door neighbors, there's a big tree there. Now, it's still a healthy tree, but it's a huge tree. And, it sort of overhangs over their property, but way up. And if that ever comes down, that's going to do major damage. But it's still a healthy tree. So hopefully that won't happen. Because I really hate to see them chop down a healthy tree. But, sometimes they are a danger. So our city needs to be a little bit more active with that. And I guess they are fairly active with it. Maybe I'm being a little too critical of them because it takes a lot of manpower for that kind of thing. And there's only so much manpower that they have. And only so much in the budget, too. So before they have to raise our taxes again, oh, well, it doesn't matter. Anything will raise our taxes. Okay, so those were the highlights from the Canadian news this past week. Like I said, kind of a slow week. Most of that stuff was kind of lame. But now that Parliament is on summer vacation, the rhetoric and everything that we're used to every day that comes out of the Ottawa, we're not going to hear for a while. We get a break too. Okay, so what's been going on here at home? Well, Walter has been working on the backyard and planting more things for our deck garden. He's just out there just being Farmer Brown, I'm telling you. Last week, we got a rhubarb plant, and he started out, he was just going to dig a hole and drop it in one far corner of our backyard, and we don't have any landscaping in our backyard. Well, now we do, because he decided as he was putting this in, he had some bricks laying around, so he built a nice little corner garden. And I think I showed that to you last week. And the rhubarb seems to be thriving there. So I don't know if he's going to he was talking about putting another matching corner garden in the opposite corner of the backyard and put in some hostas and stuff. I don't know if he's still got that idea or not. But everything is doing very nicely. In another week or two, I should take a picture of the front of the house, the garden there. He doesn't put any plants in there. There are some things that come, like we have hostas in there. They come up every year, and daylilies and that kind of thing. And there's a couple of other little wildflower things that somehow creeped out of a pot one year and come up every year too. So we don't bother, and when I say we, I mean Walter, bother putting in any box plants. We have a couple of planters on the front step that we got. I think we bought them at Did we buy them at Costco? I don't know where we got them. Again, when I say we, I mean Walter. And they look very nice. too. So, and of course, our deck garden, which I'm going to show you some pictures of in a moment, is coming along really nice. And we got a nice crop this year, and hopefully it will all grow. It's doing not too bad right now. Considering that there's been a bit of a setback for gardening this year because it's been cold. We had a cold spring and it is still not that warm for summer. In fact, as I say that, it's only 15 degrees C at 7:30 Monday morning. Looks a little overcast too. I don't know if it's going to rain or what. But yeah, usually this time of the year we're in the 20s, low 20s anyways. And the high today is, well, the high is going to be 26. 26? Or is that 20? I'm trying to see it on my watch and it's very small print. No, it's 20. That isn't, that's comfortable, but that isn't hot by any means. So yeah, we'll see what kind of year we're going to have for growing things. Let's see. We bought some strawberries. We put in 2 strawberry plants, and they're the ever bloom or whatever they call them strawberries. We get them all summer long kind of thing. I suspect that they're kind of small, and as you'll see in a picture in a moment, they are small, but we do have berries on there. In fact, Walter picked one the other day and I ate it. That had come up, and actually it tasted very nice. So yeah, but we're not going to get huge numbers of them, not this year. But we did go out and buy a quart basket of strawberries. I think they were $19 for them, which I guess that's the going price. And we bought some stalks of rhubarb as well because he was going to make a pie. That was on Friday we did that, I think. Do I see a pie? No. You know what he's going to do? I told you I have to clean today. One of the rooms is the kitchen. I'll get that kitchen all nice and sparkly and shiny, and that's when he's to decide to make the pie. And when Walter makes things or cooks anything, it's a mess. And I shouldn't even bother cleaning the kitchen because you'll never know it was done. But then again, if I get a pie out of it, it may be worth it because I love pie. And let's see what else. Just a reminder, there is no Stephen and Walter live this coming week. So there won't be anything this Sunday, which is June the 28th. So no Stephen and Walter live. Why, you may ask? Well, I have mentioned this already before, but we're going to a concert, a backyard concert at our nephew's house. His daughters, our great nieces, are both very, very musical, play a variety of different instruments, and every summer they put on a little concert for the family, which is really nice. I'll be honest, it kind of bores me because the music that they play is the stuff their father likes, and their father likes the stuff from the 70s. Like he likes the Rush and whatever, those groups. You see, I'm more of a disco boy myself. I often say to them, play ABBA. They never do. But anyways, it'll be enjoyable. And we always have pizza when we're there too, and beer, wine. We bring our own. Yeah. But that starts at 2:00 Sunday afternoon. So yeah, we won't be able to do the live. So we debated on whether to do the live later when we got home or to, do it a day earlier. Decided, nope, stick to the schedule. It's not going to kill us to miss 1 week. And to be honest, I don't have any topics for it anyways. And actually, if I want to be really, really candid and honest about it, I love doing Stephen and Walter live, but it's going to be kind of nice to have a Sunday off with it. Because, well, like I said, I don't have a topic. Oh, I would eventually find one. But, yeah, so no Stephen and Walter live. How many times have I said that now? This coming Sunday. But I know somebody out there is not going to get the message, and they'll be sitting there looking for it and can't find it, and then I'll get an email or something. I don't know what happened. I can't find where your live was. Guess there wasn't one. Okay, so on Saturday, too, we are planning to go into Toronto. It's Pride weekend, and the big parade is on the Sunday. We don't go to the parade, mainly because there's like over 2 million people literally lining the streets where the parade goes on, and you can't move. You can't breathe. It is a madhouse. So no, but just to keep in with the spirit of the whole thing, we're going in the day before, and there's always a booth and everything set up down on one street that runs several blocks that is basically known as the Gay Town. And we'll wander through all of that and maybe go someplace and have dinner or something like that. I don't know, not in that area because you won't get into any place. And we'll take the GO train in, which is for those of you that aren't from this area, it's the commuter train into Toronto and back. It's the best way these days to get in and out of Toronto because, well, especially this weekend coming, it's a zoo and things are under construction always in Toronto. And parking, one, finding a place to park, and once you do, it's going to cost you a mortgage to do it. So taking the GO train is the better way. And, we can walk from the Union Station in Toronto to where we want to go. But there's a subway system too. We can take that. So hopefully the weather will be nice. And yeah, so that's the plan for the weekend. Busy weekend coming up. Okay, so that brings me to new products. Well, I really didn't buy anything that you would be that interested in. I bought Filament, and you saw that in the teaser at the beginning. And yeah, I bought quite a bit of Filament, mainly because Bamboo Labs, which is the company I deal with for my 3D printers, had a sale. They only had the sale twice a year, this time of the year and Black Friday, and Filament is on for a really good price. So I stocked up to the tune of 26 spools of Filament. Yeah, I got a lot of Filament. So that's the only thing I bought that's new. So highlights from the videos from the past week. Well, last Monday on Coffee with Steven, I talked about the bamboo sale in a little bit more detailed there. On the Idiot Quilter, I talked more about the evolution of my Japanese quilt, and I will carry on that discussion tomorrow on Idiot Quilter, as I've already said. So, Chatty, this was a suggestion from one of my subscribers that was developed into the idea of, is there a creative gene? Do some people, are they born with this gene and that's why they're great artists or great quilters or fashion designers or whatever? Or is that a myth? So we explored that. And of course, yesterday on Stephen Walter Live, we looked at basically how we're bringing up, and when I say our, I mean the world is bringing up young ladies and young gentlemen, and are we doing them a disservice? And it seems we've gone backwards in time in the way that we girls and boys differently. And this came from basically as a spin-off from that whole discussion we had the week before on that horrendous group in the United States or movement called Turning Point, where basically they say women are subservient to their husbands. Yeah, shades of The Handmaid's Tale. Okay, so coming events, Sewing with Steven on Wednesdays as usual. So all are welcome. Links in the show notes. And just advance notice, my birthday's coming up in July, July the 14th to be exact. It's Bastille Day. Yes, in France. So I will be having a special Stephen's birthday bash pop-up sew day on July the 11th, Saturday, July the 11th. And at that one, it'll be like any of my other pop-up sew days. Come and go as you please. You don't have to register for it or anything like that. When we get close to the date, I'll have the links for you. But there may be some prizes as well. So, yeah. Help me celebrate my birthday by planning to come to my pop-up sew day on July the 11th. That's a Saturday. Okay, so let us turn our attention here, and I haven't pulled this up, and I'm a bad boy because I hadn't pulled this up yet. So just give me a second to find the link. We're going to take a look. We've been talking about the weather. We're going to take a look and see right now currently what things are happening outside. I just need my Ring camera link here. Okay, where is it? There it is. And I just need to sign into my account. Finger press. I love the fact that I can have my computer read my fingerprint. And here we go. Activating live view, and there we are. Looking out my front door on the street. You can see it's kind of overcast. It looks like it wants to rain. I'm not sure if there is rain in the forecast for today. I think I looked yesterday and there wasn't any, but let's just see what the current situation is. Oh yeah, possibility 35% chance of rain at 9 a.m., 80% chance at 10, 50% chance. No, that's a 60. I wish they would make these the type. Well, yeah, 60% chance at 10, 80% chance at, no, that's 50%. Sorry, my eyes just don't focus. 50% chance at 11, 50% chance at 12. Well, okay, basically, we're going to have rain from 9 o'clock until 1 o'clock, according to this. Okay, so I don't feel so bad of not going out for my walk today. This gives me an excuse because when it's raining, I don't go out for a walk. So, okay, good for that. And yeah, you can get a look here. You can see, I don't think, can I pull this in? No, I can't. What's this do? Full screen. Okay, there's our planters right there. They look very pretty, I think, on that. And, you know, I love this time of year. Our grass is green, and we have these beautiful trees right here, these 3 in a row. This one's on our neighbor's property, and these 2 are in the, you know, the boulevard kind of a thing. But it's a lovely little canopy of trees. I often picture, you know, I would love to have a block party and string lights up through those trees. Oh, there goes a pedestrian, so you can see this is live. Another morning walker. As I said, I think fairy lights in those trees would look really nice on a nice warm summer evening. Everybody's having glasses of wine or beer and chatting. We did this once, not us. When we first moved into this subdivision 30 years ago, somebody around another part of the subdivision had a block party. And that was kind of fun. They're a good way to get to know your neighbors. We know our neighbors here roughly. Like we know the ones on our south side much better than the ones on our north side. And we sort of know the ones, oh, there goes another walker. We know the ones across the street, directly across the street. In fact, I went to high school with the lady that lives there. We weren't really friends in high school, but we knew of each other. But that's it. If you had a block party, it might be a way of, you know, after 30 years, getting to know the neighbors a little bit. But I think that's pretty much the way things are in most neighborhoods these days. I think people are, you know, pleasant, but they're not in the day like where I grew up as a kid. The neighbors all knew each other. And they'd have these parties and things like that. Not so these days. Now we did learn something last night, or Walter did, actually told me about it at 3 o'clock this morning when he came to bed. He goes, "Are you awake?" Yes, now I am. Want to hear something? Okay, what? Well, the neighbor next door, he said he got last year Quilt of Valor. Now, we knew he was involved with the military, but in order to get a Quilt of Valor here in Canada anyways, you've had to have active duty and you've had to have been wounded. So that is something we didn't know, but we don't talk to those neighbors. Well, we're friendly to them, but we don't talk to them. But I thought, isn't that neat? They have no idea that I make Quilts of Valor. So if I ever get the opportunity, I'm going to say to him, well, we saw on the internet that you were a recipient of a Quilt of Valor. Congratulations. That's great. And by the way, I make Quilts of Valor. So, yeah, things you learn, you know. Really need to talk to the neighbors more. Okay, so that's everything that's coming up. And that's the weather. And so now let's turn our attention to what we've got growing. So let me get out of this and put that down there. And here we go. And so here is our garden on our deck. These are our strawberry plants, 2 of them. And you can see here, we've got a couple of ones that are ripening up. We've got lots of flowers. So where there's flowers, there's going to be fruit. And you can see all of these ones hanging here. Now you may wonder, what is this in the pot? That's basically wood shavings that Walter bought at the pet store. It's the stuff you line like gerbil cages with and that. Because he had read that you should protect the strawberries from touching the soil because they'll rot if that happens. So this keeps that from happening, I guess. This is a pepper plant right in here and behind it. Bunch of tomatoes. We have lots of tomatoes. Some of these plants came from the ones we had under the lights. They're now outdoor and they're thriving. They look like they were going to not do well, transplanted, but they sprung right back up. So yeah, Walter decided he needed a flower out here amongst the vegetation. And another thing is that he had read that the flowers will attract the bees, and so to pollinate things. So that's why we have that. These are more pepper plants. This is the pepper plant tree, I call it. This has been one under the lights, and we've had it for a long time. And Walter decided it was looking very sickly under the lights, and so he brought it outdoors and planted it out here, and it has been thriving. There are other ones, you can't see them very well, but there's other smaller peppers on here. And this particular variety, we don't know what it is, but they start out like a dark purple or black. They eventually green up. You can see this one's got some green on it, and you leave them long enough, they will go to red as well. But he says, well, it's never going back into the house because we don't bring plants that we've had out in the summer on the deck. We learned because they bring bugs in with them. And I'm kind of sad about this one because this will be the end of its life, the end of the summer probably, because unless when it's sitting out in the pot, if Walter doesn't uproot it, and I'm going to suggest to him that he doesn't, that maybe it'll survive through the winter and maybe it'll come back up again. I don't know. It's an experiment. See, there's a little flower right here too. So, and there's flower here too. So yeah, it's doing well. Looks a little gnarly, but yeah, so I call it the pepper tree. And of course we have mothers. There's another plant here, our basil down here below. Walter put the basil under this built-in bench, because he thought that last year we get a lot of sun on this deck, especially in the afternoon. It can get, it's hot enough to fry an egg on it, literally. Yeah. So he keeps everything well watered out here, but he thought that if he puts it there, it'll have a little bit more shade and they might do better. And right now they're doing really good. Again, these were all started from seed under the lights. In fact, everything was started from seed. Yeah, we didn't buy any, partially grown plants this year to put in here. More tomatoes. These are our cucumbers. Oh, this is a little closer here. You can see the basil. Some green onions, and there's hot peppers. You can see them on here. We're going to have actually some of those plants that I said were pepper plants. They are, but they're hot pepper plants too. We're going to have a lot of hot peppers when they start coming on. We've already picked some from this, and this was one that was under the lights as well. And I have frozen them in a little baggie for, using in cooking. I have to remember they're there. But I really want to get enough that I can do some pickled peppers again. because I like the pickled peppers. And I think we have some jalapenos somewhere in those bushes growing too. So these are cucumbers. Now, last year's cucumbers, by accident, we got ones that climbed and they went right up here. But I said these ones aren't climbers. But I don't know, maybe they will be. They have things that come out of them. Maybe if we can entice it to climb, we'll see. And I want to make some pickles. So when I get some that are pickle size, I will pick them. I don't know how many I'm going to get though. I could make, bread and butter pickles too, like sliced up ones, although I prefer a dill. We could have bought a plant. It was called the pickle plant, which were a variety of cucumber that are really good for pickling. So I don't know. Experiments all the time. And of course, this would be our comes up every year. It sits out in the deck in the wintertime. It gets covered in snow. We don't cover it up or anything. It's chives. They come right back up. Um, and we don't use a lot of chives. They taste like onions. The green part. They're good in a salad. I just have to remember to cut some and use them up. So yeah. Now, as far as the grow lights are concerned, it's kind of sad. Um, yeah, this lettuce has had it. I think Walter has plans to plant more lettuce. We're not putting lettuce out in the. Oh, that's disgusting. I have to clean. I didn't see this. There's a little bit of dirt from this on this chair that sits under here. And that's Walter digging around in the plants. Ah, jeez. Really, the life of a maid. Anyways, I don't know what he's going to put in here. I suggested he do the lettuce because we're not growing lettuce outside because it tends to like things to be a little cooler. And like I said, that deck gets really hot. So yeah, you doesn't do that well. So, but it does well under the lights. And this is grow light number 2. And I think he's got something in there, but I'm not sure which. And then this is the jungle. Looks very nice right now. In the jungle, we've got some pepper plants coming up, and we've got some more tomato plants in here to keep the crop growing. And I don't know what other plans he may have for this. This is a bamboo, and it's coming back to life. It was been sitting in our bedroom for 12, 13 years. Never gets water. Doesn't get a lot of light. So yeah, we thought it might be dead, but it sat there for so long. I mean, that's kind of sad, isn't it? Well, Walter took it, repotted it, put in some soil in that, and it's actually doing not too bad under the lights. So I don't know what we'll do with it. I don't know if we'll have to find a place in the house that when it gets back to life here where we can put it, it'll get, a little bit more light. I think if I put it out where the philodendrons are in the kitchen, that might be an okay spot for it. We'll see. Okay, so do any more here to show you? Nope, not of that. But that does take me to my 3D printing. I haven't found a lot of things that really excite me to print lately, which I just bought all this filament. I have to have something. But I'm really, and I've said this before, I'm really leaning more to things that are practical and we can use. And I did make a few things for that. Now this isn't one of them. Okay, you're looking at this and going, what the hell is that? It's my subdivision. There is a program on Maker World where I get most of my models. It's basically Bamboo Labs online model site, and they always are making new programs using AI and that to create things. Well, what you did was you went into Google Maps, isolated whatever. I isolated our subdivision, and it will print you out what you see here, a 3D map of the subdivision. So this is it. There is a river over here. These green things are the trees, another river, the roadway that goes through here. And where's my house? Well, basically I live 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, in about here would be our house. So yeah, it's kind of cool. What else? Okay, I needed a new vase out here. These you've seen before. All of this stuff on this table is 3D printed, including the doily. But I had just what looked like well, it was a watering bucket, and it was one that I made and it didn't hold water, it leaked. So I had stuck these artificial things in it, but I thought, well, we need something a little fancier. So I made this vase. Not good on the picture taking here to see what's on the side, but you get the idea. And I did it in a filament that was a two-tone filament, and I think it's kind of pretty. Now, what are these? They have guitars on them. They're for holding your guitar picks. And as I said, we're going to a concert on Sunday. Our two nieces, and they principally play guitar, lead, and bass electric guitars. So I thought, well, this would be a nice little gift for them, a little box to hold their guitar picks in. So kind of a little novelty item. I made them both, two of them, in these colors that you see. And then you're going to ask what these are. Well, these I made last year, about this time last year. In fact, when we were at the concert last year, they were mentioning they were having a problem with hornets, you know, and out in their deck area. Their deck area is covered, and of course, the hornets were looking for a place to make a nest. And I had said to them, well, we had a similar problem, but I had seen this as a 3D print, which is basically a fake start of a hornet's nest. And the idea with these is you hang them up into your eaves of your house, wherever the hornets seem to be, you know, searching to build a spot, and it deters them because they think there's already a colony there. And they work. They absolutely do work. So I made a couple for our nephew and for Walter's brother-in-law, their father. And we never got them over to them throughout the whole summer. So I'm taking them over on Sunday so they can put them up and use those. But they do, surprisingly, they do work. So yeah, that is a practical print. And yeah, that's all I have to show you. So I guess all of these prints are practical, you know, containers, vases, things like that. But how many more vases do I need? And there's some really neat vases, and you know, you can print out. But how many does one need? So yeah, so I need new things too. And did you see any of that? No, you saw me talking about it. Okay, sorry. I just realized I didn't push the button. Okay, there's the vase I was talking about, okay? There's the guitar pick holder. And there's the hornet nest. Guitar pick holder. Vase. I'm sorry. I forget to hit the bloody button all the time. Okay. So, oh, and the map of the subdivision, you probably didn't see that either, did you? There's the map of the subdivision. My subdivision. There's water. These are roads. These little green things are trees. And these are houses. And where am I located on this? Go around the bend and go up here about 10 houses. And my house is right about here. Okay. Now you've seen it. Once again, sorry, I'm an idiot. Okay, so there are rumors that Bamboo is going to come out with a new printer. And I already have 3 Bamboo printers. Do I need another one? No, I do not. Do I have a place for another one? Not really. But I have been looking at the ones that are called tool changers, which have multiple nozzles on them, and they work faster, and create less poop, supposedly. Now, there's a company called Snapmaker that just came out with one they call the U1, which is a tool changer. It's got great reviews. The price is good. It's reasonable. And right now they seem to be on the top of the hill here, or top of the heap, when it comes to these tool changer ones. But do I need one? No, I don't need one. Do I want one? Probably. Will I buy one? I don't know. I'm not making any rash decisions right now about that. I'm waiting to see what Bamboo might come out with, and then I'll figure it out. But you know, I'm very happy with the 3 printers I have, and yeah, toys for big boys. Now, somebody asked me yesterday on the live whether I could do a video about how a 3D printer works. Well, I've already done that. I did a series, if you remember, back a few months ago, probably back in about March, end of February. And I did that here on Monday Morning Coffee with Stephen. So if you're that person that was asking about that, just do a back search. If I can find the link to that one, I'll put it in the show notes, but I probably can't find it. But it's there somewhere, and that will show you. But essentially, how does a 3D printer work? It's really very simple. It heats up plastic to melt it, pushes it through a nozzle, and the nozzle goes around in a circular or square pattern, extruding filament, hot filament, on top of other layers of hot filament, and builds the image up from there. And that's essentially how a 3D printer works. It is not really that technically advanced. What is advanced is the computer coding that tells the nozzle where to go and moves the bed that the object is stuck to up and down. And that's it. It's an XY coordinate, XYZ coordinate grid, and the computer program basically tells it where to move to get the whatever object is that you want to make. But essentially, it's just melted plastic being laid down layer by layer to build up the object. So there you go. That's how a 3D printer works. Okay, so that's it for me today. Tune in tomorrow for the Idiot Quilter as usual, and So Chatty on Friday. And then remember, no Stephen and Walter Live this coming Sunday. Okay, I hope you have a great week. Hope the weather's nice wherever you are and you get out to enjoy it. And now I have a cleaning bucket with my name on it that I have to get to. We'll talk to you later. Bye for now. Hi, I'm just going to interrupt my program for just 1 second to remind you to like the video, to subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for future notifications. That's all I ask of you. Show me a little love. Thanks.